Hey, it's Davros. I'm not frickin' Davros. I'm Christopher Pike. Are you sure you look a bit like Davros? Well, I'm not, and he won't be invented for another 10 years, so actually, he's a rip-off of me. Okay, Chris, you win. Hello and welcome to another episode of TrekHammer, where we're talking about every single episode of Star Trek from the beginning right through to the modern episodes in quick review format. Today, we're talking about Star Trek the Original Series, episodes 11 and 12 together. It's time for the Menagerie. This is one of the darker and more compelling episodes of the original series, and it's actually quite surprising how well they did it. So, I was sitting down to watch it last night, and it struck me just how much there is of original story in this two-parter. It's a clip show, yes, but it's not at the same time. It's a clip show of an episode that you won't have actually seen unless you've been to one of the conventions where Gene Roddenberry's basically been showing this thing around for ages because he's got the 16mm black and white copy of the original pilot, and every convention he goes to is like, do you want to see the cage? But, of course, when you first see this, Star Trek is just going out on the air for the first time, and no one has seen this particular episode that they're using. It's a clip show of the unaired pilot episode, The Cage, recut into a two-parter of Spock essentially going above and beyond to prove his loyalty to his commanding officer. But not Kirk, his original commanding officer, Christopher Pike. It's actually quite interesting. It's a character study of Spock, yes, but it's also a study of how the Federation operates, what its laws are like, how basically Vulcans can't lie, but Spock probably can because he's half human. And it's very interesting that McCoy, of all characters, comes right there, straight to the defense of Spock. He literally says to Kirk at one point, Spock would not commit mutiny. Spock would not betray someone. Spock would not lie to you. Something else is happening here. Because McCoy, the guy who takes the mick out of Spock for being an alien at every opportunity, he actually understands and respects what Spock is as a person. Which is great. I love that. But it's actually quite a dark episode. We have the second captain of the Enterprise. Remember, Robert April is technically the original captain of the Enterprise, even though in some versions of canon, I don't think he actually took command of the ship so much as oversaw its construction, and then didn't in the Abrams version, because Christopher Pike did. The Abrams version's very different. But anyway, Christopher Pike, the original captain of the Enterprise from the point of view of the pilot episode, he's had quite an accident. An accident that later on in Strange New Worlds and Discovery we'll find out that he knew this was coming, and to a certain extent he's accepted his fate. He's had a really bad accident, and essentially he's got locked-in syndrome. He can't move. He can't speak. He can communicate with a yes-no bleeping on this little wheelchair thing, and he can move around a little bit in the chair. But that's it. That's all they've got. The radiation that hit him has basically cut off his control of his own body. And it's like a living hell. He's imprisoned in his own shell, essentially. And Spock knows that he can't recover from this, but there's an option that could let him live a life. So Spock pretty much goes against everything that everyone would expect him to do. He works out a plan to commandeer the Enterprise, to suggest to the crew that they're on a secret, top secret mission that they can't possibly know about or talk to anyone about. He uses fakes of people's voices, and he manages to manipulate records. It's actually quite interesting how this is done and how it's talked about. Captain Kirk says to Commodore Mendez, any person who knows about records can duplicate a voice, can recreate a false set of documents, and things like that. It's like stuff what we would do now, deepfakes and voice AI and things like that. It's right there in this episode. Spock is using recreated voices to give the commands to the Enterprise, to rewire the computer on the Enterprise, and to send its secret missions so that he can take the ship and steal Captain Pike, who, by the way, tells him not to do this, and then go to Talos 4, the only planet you're not allowed to go to in the Federation, or that the Federation knows about, and if you go there, you will be killed. It's got an automatic death penalty for going to Talos 4. So, Kirk and Commodore Mendez, they follow after the Enterprise, and they're pushing their little shuttlecraft, because they're coming from a starbase. The ship's gone, and they're following in a shuttlecraft as far as they can. They're pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. At one point, Mendez says, we've got to turn back because we're about to run out of enough fuel to get home safely. Kirk doesn't. Straight on past it. At which point, Spock finally realizes that Kirk is not going to stop this. He's not going to stop pursuing him, and he's going to end up dying in space on the shuttle if something's not done. So Spock beams Kirk aboard and puts himself under arrest. Weirdly, the instruction is to beam Captain Kirk aboard. No one else. And then Kirk and Mendez appear on the transporter pad. And immediately Mendez is pushing for full court-martial of Mr. Spock. To be honest with you, he's right. So Spock does the trial and he plays along to a certain extent, but he's not letting go of the command of the ship. He's ensuring that the ship gets to Talos 4. And his defense is only allowed because Mendez asks him why he did it. Kirk then points out, like, dude, what are you doing? If you ask him why he did it, he can now introduce any kind of evidence he wants in order to show why he did this thing. So we get to sit down and watch Star Trek in Star Trek, essentially. And we get to see the events of the cage. Cut down, very much cut down, trimmed right off all the fat. The jokes are gone, the emotional aspect of Spock is gone. Some of the parts where Pike and his crew are making a few little jokes like, oh, hello, Smith, my name's Jones, sir, that kind of thing. Or the other way around. Things like that, they're all gone. It's just the main story. So, we get this, and it's a good episode. It's cut down, but it still maintains the core of that episode, which was always a good story. Then someone, I think it's Mendez, says, how are you showing us this? Because no starship records any kind of records in this detail. It's one of the things that's weird about Star Trek, when you consider that even later episodes of Star Trek, like Deep Space Nine, Voyager and all of that, they were recorded in a time when CCTV was everywhere. But no one seems to have CCTV on a Federation starship or on Deep Space Nine. So all these crimes and things that go on DS9, why are there no cameras watching? But there aren't. So no one records stuff in detail on these shows. So how are they getting this information? And Spock won't tell them. Eventually it's revealed. He's not showing them records, he's showing them transmissions from Talos 4, which unfortunately means that because Captain Kirk is technically responsible for everything that goes on board his ship, Spock's just got Kirk the death penalty as well for allowing transmissions from Talos 4, which, if that's how the Federation works, the Federation needs serious, serious legal reform. You cannot have someone who can be put to death because of the actions of someone else. I don't care whether a captain's supposed to be ultimately responsible for everything that happens on their ship. This guy manipulated everyone in order to show them transmissions from a planet. How could Kirk possibly know this was happening when the only person who knew this was happening is the guy who's manipulated everyone along this line? I don't think that's good. It's a real bad piece of Federation jurisdiction, and I think their legal system needs fundamental reform. But here we are. So Spock's been showing them transmissions from Talos 4. Talos 4, by the way, according to Federation records, is a barren land with no life. So who's sending these transmissions? No one asks this. Ever. Even before we see the Talosians on the records, no one asks why they're going there and who they're going to see. They do ask why does he want to go to Talos 4 because they don't understand. It's barren according to the records. But when the transmissions start coming through, no one's asking, so the Federation lied. There are people there, but no one asks that. No one says that. They should, but they don't. So in the end, we get all of the information, and it's clear that because Captain Pike could have a life there, it's a good idea that he goes, if he wants to. Pike didn't want to get on the ship. He told Spock repeatedly, no, don't do this. No, 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 no. And that keeps going and going and going. He's been in a circle of no, 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 ever since he left Starbase 11. And then right at the end, it's like, yeah, go on then, I'll go. It seems like a good idea. So, turns out, then this is the bit that shocked me, because I forgot this happened. When Kirk turns to Mendez to ask his opinion on this, Mendez disappears. He's never been there. Kirk did not fly off on a shuttlecraft with the Commodore. The Commodore never left the starbase. Kirk's been talking to an illusion for the entire time. This illusionary guy forced this trial in order to help Spock keep everyone distracted long enough for the Enterprise to get to Talos 4, which is just, they've been in communication all this time, and it's wonderfully done. Spock has manipulated everyone perfectly, and the Talosians have helped. So, we then get a call from Starbase 11, because Mendez has been getting all of these transmissions as well, and he's looked at it and contacted Starfleet Command, who have all agreed, under the circumstances, they're not going to press charges, which is nice. So it all resolves in a lovely way, with a bit of recycled stock footage from The Cage of what in the original The Cage episode was an illusion of Captain Pike going off with the woman that was left behind, and they're going to live their lives happily. Now, in this version, it's the real Captain Pike going off with that woman that was left behind, which makes it very nice. And they've done a nice bit of editing. This is a really cool bit. In the original episode, the Talosians say she will have an illusion that feels real to her, and something like that, and they'll live happily ever after. In the recut version for the Menagerie, you can't hear unless you listen really carefully and have an experience in audio and editing and things like that, which of course any video editor on YouTube has. You can't hear it very, very clearly. There is a slight cut, but it's almost imperceptible. They've put in the Talosian saying, Captain Pike will have a reality that to you is an illusion, but to him is real, and things like that. And it's just so well done. They've really gone to town on this. This is an excellent set of episodes. A two-parter that, yes, it was produced because they were running behind, and it made it possible to make 2 episodes very quickly. But it's so well done that it doesn't matter that it was put in at the last minute, essentially, to fill a gap. It's really well done. It does excellent use of the what would otherwise be lost footage, and all in all, it's a really top-class set of episodes. I sat and watched it last night, meaning to watch the first one last night, the second part this morning, and then do this review. Just watched them both back to back because it was so compelling. I have no problem whatsoever with giving this the full 10 out of 10. It is that good. An excellent set of episodes, despite the fact that the Federation legal system is clearly seriously messed up. Aside from that, it's really compelling, and I really loved watching it again. It was a good enjoyment one. So, Whoop Factor 10, Mr. Sulu. Okay, that's all I've got for you this week. It's a 2-parter there, really worth watching, and I think if you haven't seen any Star Trek before, it's a good one. Definitely have a look at that one on your list of episodes to watch. But I'd love to hear your opinion. Am I too generous with my ratings there? Or maybe not quite generous enough? I don't know how I could go past 10 out of 10. But am I generous enough? What are your thoughts on this? Do you think the Federation has a good legal system or a bad one? I'd love to hear your comments. Let's have a talk about Star Trek in the comments section down below. But until next time, I've been Zoe Kirk Robinson. You've been watching TrekHammer. Live long and prosper. I'll see you next time. If you like the show, please consider supporting me on Patreon. It really does help create future videos. That's patreon.com/Zoe Kirk Robinson. And I've got an extra special thanks going out to Chief89, Sam Yates, Retro Mickey 82, Mo Henry, and George Botterini. Thank you so much, guys.